the people that get involved in this business, they give up too early. So what we're showing you versus showing the next guy is completely different. And you're not disciplined in doing that every single day. It doesn't matter how good you are at what your language is. You have to have those two pieces in order to get your goals.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Do Hard Things podcast. I'm your host, Gabe Lullo. I am thrilled to be here today and introduce a remarkable guest. Peter Roberti is a third-generation custom tailor and designer. And Peter grew up in a family business. He actually, this family is really the art of tailoring, learning the craft, from his grandfather. With over 15 years of experience, Peter's gained national recognition for his bespoke garments, renowned with their exceptional quality and attention to detail. He's also the president of the Custom Tailor and Designers Association. And he's not only a leader in the industry, but he's also a mentor, dedicated to nurturing really the next generation of tailors and designers. Peter's motto is, "How can I help?" And he's reflecting an unwavering commitment to his community, his desire to empower others. And just beyond professional achievements, Peter's also a devoted family man. He's inspired by his wife, Joelle, and his young son, Anthony. And he's just also engaged in, style blogger. He's a public speaker. He's passionate about helping others. He's really a true icon, and he's a friend. Peter is actually a tailor for our family, and his family has clothed us for quite some time. I'm wearing an Adrian Jules shirt today, actually designed by Peter. And so I'm really pumped to be on brand for your show with us today, Peter. So, hey, listen, man, you have had an incredible journey tailoring the industry of business icons, and you have an amazing lineage and the craftsmanship of what you do. Yeah. Take me through it. Take me through your family background and take me through how did you start and where you are today. I'd love to hear your origin story.
Yeah. Well, first, thank you so much, Gabe, for letting me come on the show. This is awesome. I can't wait. Spend the next 10, 20 minutes getting, just talking, chatting. This is going to be good. It's going to be real good.
Yeah.
How I got involved in the business. So there's trade shows the CTDA does 3 times a year where all the mills come in from Italy, Northern England, all these different mills fly in, and a bunch of different designers and custom tailors come in. And we do them in Chicago, and we do them in New York City. And 20 years ago, moved back 20 years ago, where there was one in Las Vegas, and where we were doing some buying, and my grandfather was alive at the time, and he bought, he was taking me around, and he bought me a black piece of fabric and a red piece of fabric, and he said, "This summer I'm going to teach you how to make a suit." So I grew up in the factory learning how to make the clothes, because the clothes are still made in New York, here in Rochester. So that's how I got involved in the business. So I learned on the ground floor. So he really, opened my eyes to the world of tailoring, and been doing it ever since. So it's awesome. Yeah, very, very fortunate he was around.
Yeah, what an incredible story from where that started and to leading it as well. So, as a third generation tailor, how do you balance really the traditions of the craft that your grandfather started with, modern innovations, style and design that's trending, that's happening now, in 2024?
Well, see, our approach is a little bit different. So, our foundation, so our core principles in terms of quality and all the measures that we have in terms of the shop all stay the same. But in terms of trends and what the individual client is looking for is all different. So trends is kind of a tricky word because our approach is different. So I'll sit down with guys like yourself, and what's important to you and the lifestyle that you live might be completely different to the next guy that I meet. So what we're showing you versus showing the next guy is completely different. So we develop clothing around that individual's lifestyle. So it's hard to say, what trends we're seeing, overseas or in the marketplace, and what role that plays with us. It's different because each client is different. Their lifestyles are different. Their needs are different. And we try and create clothing and a wardrobe around their lifestyle and their needs. Does that make sense?
Right. Makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. And I've experienced that with you personally too, right? I think I said, "Hey, listen, I only wear black." right? So
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
how do
exactly.
we make something that, people know it's a little bit different, it's unique, it's something that, was done, professionally, but with also having it be black, right? So you made that happen for me, and I can see what you mean by that. So
Yeah,
the show, yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, the show is called Do Hard Things, and the reason why I love that is that was my family motto, and we heard about your family motto, right? And your motto, I should say. But tell us about like a pivotal moment in your career, right? That maybe it really influenced you, or maybe your approach just to business. Because, you know, I didn't have a dad or a family member or grandparents that does what I
yeah.
do. I started this from scratch. You had role models, but still you've taken the business to a next level. And so what pivotal moment in your career or your life was it for you to say, you know what, I'm going to do the hard things and take this to the next level for our family?
Yeah, that's such a good question because I think that like any business owner or somebody that's starting a business, there's like specific years in that business because we've been around for 60 years, and I know there's specific years that stand out for my dad, my grandfather, myself, that is like this point in time and this year just changed the course of the business. And not to go too far deep and down a rabbit hole, but I know, like in terms of when I was young and getting in the business, I had my my dad gave me he's tough, and he gave me one client. He said, "Listen, if you want to do this, you got to build it your own. You got to build your own book of client." But there was a particular client that said, "You know what? Let me get a shot at your son. Let me just teach him the ropes. Let me show him a thing or two." So I went and visited that client, and he really taught me because we were looking through swatches and we were looking at clothing, and then I kind of just stopped the sale. I said I made the decision that he was done, and then we went through the whole thing, and then he started communicating to me. He's like, "Listen, you know, you're selling out of your wallet. I could continue to buy and continue to buy. I could buy this entire book if I wanted to." So at that point in my mind, I'm like, I'm no longer going to, I'm not no longer going to just compete at the bottom. I want to compete at the top, and I'm going to, no longer, at the time I was 21 years old. I didn't have much of anything. So, at that point in time, I was like, I want to work with the top echelon people and really, work with those guys because they place such an emphasis on their time and they value it so much. So that was kind of the pivotal one of the things that kind of stick out in my mind that really kind of set me on this path of wanting to work with those type of individuals.
Right. That makes sense. So overall, key factors, right? What are some of the things that you're measuring your success right now in your work? And of course, it doesn't have to be solely about the garments, but or maybe the factors that plays, but more importantly, like your team, right? You have a lot of people around you, and you're leading the charge. So what is
Sure.
it that you're doing to help measure your success and their success, and help them contribute towards the growth of the overall business?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we always talk about what we can control. So I like to make it as easy as possible. So we break it down. I've heard a couple different analogies like green days and red days. I like to call it good days, great days, and bad days. Okay, so if you look at a whole chart, we first got to break down on an activity level and of the things you can control what a great day is, what a good day is, and what a bad day is. So, like on a great day, if you let's say it's X amount of sales and X amount of people that you gotta go see, and how many phone calls and so on and so forth, that makes up a great day. We now know that this amount of activity, the things that you can control, that makes up a great day. And then we now know what makes up a good day and what's a bad day. So, what I like to talk about is like, okay, we've just got to have more good and great days in a month than bad days. But every time you have a bad day, the next day has to be a great day. It has to be a great day. So we like to break it down and make it simple. So, and then you just look at a calendar. It's like, all right, well, we block it off and say, okay, this is the calendar. How many good days, how many great days do we have? And then we could tell pretty much. We don't even have to really look at the numbers because these are the things that we could control whether or not it's going to be a good month or not.
Right. Absolutely.
So
So,
yeah, so I don't know if
okay.
that kind of makes sense, but we could go further into detail. But that is kind of
Yeah.
the rough idea of what we look at.
No, that makes a ton of sense. I mean, it's funny. You have a product, right? You're selling a product. But so does Apple, right? And you can go online and buy an iPhone and it's, very transactional and the product, helps sell itself. But you and I are similar when it comes to relationships because we're really not in the product. You're not in the product business, even though you do offer a product. You're more in the service business, right?
Mm,
And
yeah,
you're building, long-term, established, strong relationships, and that's what we do here, right? So I'm in the service business, right? We don't have an algorithm, I don't have a patent or a widget, right? And nor do you. So yes, you deliver a product at the end of the day, and so do I. But it's about the relationship and building those relationships with your clients.
hundred
How
percent.
impactful is that in your business, and what are your key go-tos to make sure you're fostering and more importantly retaining great client relations?
Yeah, I mean, the relationships is everything. So I mean, these guys trust us with some of the most important moments of their lives, whether it's a wedding, whether it's it's a deal that they're doing or a business deal. The most important moments of their life, and we're responsible to making sure that they look a certain way and dress a certain way. So, with that, thinking about that, how do you reinforce and make these relationships stronger? And I think a lot of it is just asking the right questions, taking an interest in them and getting to know them. Really getting to know them and understanding what the reasons are and why they want to dress a certain way, I think is so important. Just more than just the surface level, like really digging deep. And and these guys are a lot of my all my clients are smarter than I am, so I get to learn from them and use them as a mentor and ask for advice, and these guys want to give advice. So I just, and I feel like all those things help build the relationship, strengthen the relationship, especially when they're giving advice back, like, hey, this is more than just a transactional relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So you were touching upon personalization and the importance of it in your designs. How are you doing that? Like you talked a little bit about asking the right questions, but you had someone come in, you just met them for the first time, and you obviously want to impress them with your designs right out of the gates because I think that the first impression with what you deliver in that first appointment is going to keep them hopefully for life. So
Sure.
how do you dig deep in and we call them discovery calls here when we're doing
Sure.
these
Yeah.
demos, right? So how do you get those discovery questions so you can provide the right personalization so those clients can come back for more?
Our approach is a little bit different than if you were to walk into a department store, if you were to walk into, a store, walking down the street. It's so important to the relationship that you have with a stylist or a clothier or a tailor is similar to like your barber. So getting to know them and their lifestyle is so important. So within the first 15, 20 minutes, we go through a series of questions to understand, their lifestyle, what's important to them, their needs, their wants. Are they traveling? Are they living in, do they have two different homes? Are they living in Florida? Are they living, up north, part of the season? So understanding, what their lifestyle is and how they want to dress, that first 20, 25 minutes in that consultation is that's where all the work is up done. It's like if you were to build a house, it's you're getting all the talking about the blueprints, the architecture, all of that upfront work is done, you know, in that initial consult before we actually go to look at fabrics. So and the measuring process is all done up front, and then we go into pattern making and so on and so forth. But that initial consultation is so important. So that way, when you get the close, it's essentially you should just almost put it on them.
Right. Absolutely. Awesome. I love it. Okay. So the industry itself, right? Is this exciting time right now in the industry? I'm seeing a lot of, different opportunities for you to have a tremendous success. I mean, you're all over LinkedIn. This is actually how we met, was through LinkedIn originally. So how are you seeing the industry? How are you seeing right now how technology is providing impact in the industry, and what are you doing right now to take advantage of it?
Yeah, the industry it's it's an interesting time right now because I feel like in our world, um, if you're using technology appropriately, it can be an advantage to you. But I also think that technology has allowed custom clothing or bespoke to get diluted. So, like, you could essentially go get a custom garment or go get a custom suit online. But I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, a lot of the love and the passion is done in person. Getting
Right.
to know them, the relationship, putting your hands on the body, understanding the shoulder slope, the posture, all these little nuances when we're building the pattern, it is done face to face and in the meeting. So and we need that information, that technology can't get to build your pattern, to tweak your pattern. So what I would say is that right now in our industry, there's a lot of like this, there's a custom is a buzzword that's being thrown around that I think that, technology has allowed us to get access to a lot of different people that we didn't have 5 years ago. So I love it. I embrace it. I enjoy it. But there's still a portion of it, I think, that we have to do in person. Part of this process is being in person.
For sure. Awesome. So we always like to give advice on this podcast, right? For the next generation. And you're leading, you're an icon, you're shaping the industry of tailoring. And walk me through, like, what are 2 or 3 pieces of advice that you would give young tailors, designers really looking to make their mark in the industry?
Well,
Don't give
couple
away 2
different
trade secrets. Don't give away the trade secrets, but just
So one thing that I will say is that I have a couple different things. I would say that a lot of people, what we see is when they come into our industry and they come to the classes the CTDA offers, is that they want to come in and they've seen stuff on social media and they think it's all this glamorous thing. It's a bunch of, they're going to live this lifestyle and it's very glamorous, which, you know, years of hard work, yes, you're able to do that. But, there's going to be 5 to 10 years of just, grinding and making the phone calls and hitting the doors and, knocking on the doors and making the phone calls and, getting turned down and getting knocked down. There's so much more of that than there is what you see on social media. So I would say that understand that, there's so much more of that than there is of what you see on social media. And I would tell you is that the people that get involved in this business, they give up too early. So they're right there and they're passionate about it and they could do it, but they just give up too early. And I
yeah,
think that if they just kept it, if they stuck it out and they found the right guidance and the right mentors, they could do this for the long run.
absolutely. So, when you're doing the hard things in our space, we always say, if your why doesn't make you cry, it's
Mm.
not strong enough, right? And so, what I think it's Napoleon Hill that said, desire is the starting point of all achievement, right? So you've mentioned your family, it's a significant source of inspiration for you. I know that. But how does your, personal life influence your professional work, right?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I think that my family is the only reason and is the big why that I do this. I mean, between Joelle and my son Anthony, that is the why. I think that making the connection, and they get it, they understand it. Making that connection between the family and the business, I think is important. It ends up being part of it's part of the DNA of my makeup is doing this. I think that we are now in a position that I think it's about what the legacy is. If we're going to make decisions or we're going to make moves, it's like, all right, what is it? How does this affect our legacy in the clothing industry? How could we rewrite history in the clothing industry? That's the decisions we're making, not the small ones. I mean, open up another store, which is great. It's awesome. It's beautiful. But like, how could we make such a big change in the clothing industry that it makes an impact for years to come? Those are the decisions that we're making.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, big audacious goals, right? That's what it's all about. And I think that's what, that driving force is. You have to have a light at the end of the tunnel, but it can't just be a light. It has to be a massive lighthouse spotlight, right? So,
Right?
it has to be big, and the juice is worth the squeeze for sure.
Yeah.
So, we're closing up on time. So here's a couple questions. One is, you're in sales. I mean, yes, you are obviously creating and you're creative and you're an artist. But at the end of the day, you need to sell. And so where does sales come from you? Like how do you get good at being able to deliver that message the right way? Are you practicing, drilling, rehearsing? Are you doing role plays with the family? Like, how do you continually focus on getting better, and how do you better
Hmm.
yourself? Is it podcasts? Where do you go for that source?
Yeah. Well, to to bring this down, I think that and make it as simple as possible. You know where you are today and where your goals are. What's in between that is consistency and discipline. I mean, when it comes down to sales, that's a lot of it. I mean, you could always improve in terms of tonality and language and so on and so forth. But if you could have the best language and tonality, but if you're not consistent in your message and you're not disciplined in doing that every single day, it doesn't matter how good you are at what your language is. You have to have those two pieces in order to get your goals. So, I mean, I would say that's everything in terms of sales, or a lot
Yeah.
of it, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you push through the bad days though, right? In sales, your bad weeks, bad quarters, sometimes I remember when I was in my 20s too, one day I'm eating lobster, the next day I'm eating ramen, right? So it's like how
Oh
do you
yeah.
stay consistent, and how do you deal when, things get tough temporarily and push through? Yeah, I always look at the boxer, right? It's either you fold or and count to 10, or you come out swinging. You obviously have, and your family have consistently come out swinging. What is that for you to shake it off and get back into the ring?
Well, what I would tell you, I mean, one of the ways that I'll do it is, I'll go into, like, if I've got a journal that I look at every single morning and I write down, if I had a tough day, so today, say today's a bad day, or deals didn't happen, or whatever it might be. Just going into your journal, keep pictures of what your why is. You talked about that. If your why doesn't make you cry, like having that in your journal and looking at that and really, embracing that and getting deep into that, and then rewriting down what your why is, what you're grateful for is. All of a sudden, those tough things that just happened don't seem that big of a deal anymore. So for me, that it's as easy. I don't want to say it's as easy as that, but that's what I like to do. Is I like to think about what I'm grateful for, because there, just being thankful and just thinking about what you're grateful for helps you get over a lot of those tough times, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever watched the TV show The Bear, but it's really an amazing show, and it's about this family who Italian, right? And one of the characters there was always wearing t-shirts, raggedy, kind of like this, old, just like a sandwich spot, and then they turned it into this high-end restaurant. And in the next season, he just started wearing suits, and he would go around to everyone and say, I wear suits now, and I wear suits, and everyone was impressed, right? And it's like that coat of armor, and it just provides like this amazing confidence.
Mm.
And when I look at putting on a shirt by your family's company, I just immediately feel confident, and I really have that just a clean self-esteem, and it makes me feel good in the morning to get to work. How important? Do you resonate with that? I'm assuming you do, but how important
No,
is that for you?
I would actually tell you that, I'm just thinking about, like, if I had a bad day, or quote unquote, the next day I'm putting on my favorite outfit, like
Yeah,
something that either it's got to be new or it's got to be my favorite outfit. I mean, you know how it is. When you put something new on, you stand up a little taller, you feel good, and you can't. You're gonna have a good day, just because you're putting that out to the atmosphere. You just feel good. You're just attracting those things into your life.
yeah.
That's why
Funny.
that's why I think clothing is so important.
Yeah, I totally agree. We have, we've hired hundreds, if not thousands, of reps over the last few years, thousands over our 10 years we've
Yeah.
been doing sales development. There's someone on our team right now. His name's Colby. He's all over LinkedIn. He's great, but he wears a suit and tie to work every day. We all work from home, and he wears a suit and tie to work every day. He's at his
Nice.
house. He travels from his bedroom to his home office, 6 feet commute, not, but he's in a shirt and tie, and it's awesome because he shows up ready to go, and he's probably the most confident and consistent rep on the sales floor, if not top 5. And the
Yeah,
reality is I think that has a lot to do with it. What are your thoughts on
100%.
that?
Yeah, confident, consistent. Just by putting that on, it just feels better. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and I think it's so important. So listen, this has been great. Getting to know you, your family's amazing. I love the content you produce all over social, LinkedIn. We've been following you for a while, and we really love it. Super grateful that you've been able to hop on the podcast with us. How do people get a hold of you? Let's say 2 ways. How do people get a hold of you just for inspiration and learning more from Peter? And then how do people get into your clothes?
Yeah, I mean, if you do Adrian Jules custom clothing and then Peter Roberti into Google, all of our social media accounts will come up. You'll get stuff that's both personal stuff on LinkedIn that you could connect with me and I'll answer any questions that you might have. And then we've got our company accounts that you'll get more for inspiration there.
Awesome. Well, Peter, thanks so much for your time. Thank you for all that you do. Thanks for the
Yeah,
shirts, and we
thank
look
you.
forward to looking forward to seeing more. Thanks so much for your time, man.
Thank you, Gabe. Thank you so much. Thank you. This is a ton of fun.